Is that all right? Okay. Hi. Thank you for coming. I am so excited to get to talk about this story. Let me start though with a little girl in a pioneer costume who walks bravely into a tunnel. She can hear the music of Happy Canyon, smell the sawdust, and her heart is beating out of her chest as she knew her turn was coming to be pulled out of the trunk. She could smell that sawdust, she could see the bright lights, and literally, she was so excited to be a part of the Happy Canyon show. Good evening. My name is Becky Fletcher Waggoner, and I was that little girl at age 3 that came out of the trunk act. That's when I started. As most children in Happy Canyon are voluntold, and not really volunteered when they're that young. Thank you to the Fort Walla Walla Museum for inviting me tonight. It is such an honor. I am delighted to give you a small slice and a small insight into the unique century of Happy Canyon history. But let me start with a fun story about another little girl. She's only a month old. She can't even remember, obviously, her first night in the show, as she came in on the back of her mom in a cradle cord. And you are seeing another example of a child that didn't even know they were getting volunteered for Happy Canyon. She played various parts through all the years she's been in the show. She rode horseback with Travoy, berry picker in the mountains, and more recently, one of the key narrators explaining the glory of the Indian culture. Year after year, her family comes in to set up in our TV village, and every night she dresses up still in century-old regalia to show the audience the beauty and the majesty of early Indian Columbia River Plateau life. Before Lewis and Clark, before Astor, and even before the immigrants appeared. Play a key role in the show for us with the wedding scene and the exchange of goods. When I sat down with her, I learned so much about the show that made me fall in love with it all over again. Because when you watch the wedding scene in Happy Canyon during the Indian portion, you are literally getting to see something that our tribes would have lost. Because in 1916, Happy Canyon wrote that part in. They literally preserved the song that is sung and the actual dance. And if you've seen Happy Canyon, who in here has seen the show? Yes, so many of you know it's such one of my favorite parts of the first half. And then she takes part in what's the exchange of the Indian goods. The bride's family exchanging the trade good with the groom's family. And she loves being a part of that. She told me that it's honoring her ancestors and proclaiming these ancient customs are not lost, but displayed. She not only loves Happy Canyon, she also said to me, I'm honoring what our family's done for generations, continuing the tradition, being proud of who you are and your family, and passing down to the next generation. And I'm happy to say she has great-grandchildren, 6 generations deep, now in that show, participating, those sweet little moccasin footprints out there that you will see this September, if hopefully you come. This story I just told you is one of many that I had the honor to sit with a whole wide variety of Happy Canyon heroes, I call them, to get a slice of the puzzle for over 109 years. I show you this next scene just for you too, because what you may not know is every year at the Happy Canyon Pageant, since its inception in 1914, we've had a dedicated orchestra. It's the most amazing thing, and you could speak to the fact that it's amazing musicians from all over the Northwest, and they love it. They come back year after year. We've had a clarinetist that spent over 50 years in the same spot, and we miss him so much that he loved coming. So even the orchestra is like a rite of passage, and it is hard to get into the orchestra unless someone retires. I love every year just listening to the sounds of the orchestra playing really hard John Philip Sousa marches, such as Hands Across the Sea and Liberty Bell. Understand, these aren't easy places or pieces to play, but it's easy to literally forget we have a live orchestra under the stars. It is said in the old Happy Canyon, when it was downtown, which I will get to in Pendleton, people didn't have their cell phones, obviously. And so what did they do as the roundup rolled around? They couldn't wait to go listen to the orchestra rehearsing, because they said the sounds of the music wafting out from that arena, literally, like the whole crowd would gather downtown to hear it. Or just go listen the night before the show. They loved it. Much to my joy, I found that the same, mostly the same score that we played is the same one from 1916. Isn't that amazing? Just the same glorious music. The quarter moon in all its beauty and brilliance will rise over the grandstand. That is all because Roy Rayleigh, our founder, wanted it to be that way. And I want you to see this orchestra here. You can attest to this. They only practice one time before the show. That's Wednesday at 2. You're all invited. But it's my favorite thing to see all these musicians come together, and then you would never know that they haven't practiced for weeks. How remarkable that there's always been a dedicated scenery, a band, and an audience to watch a show that is over 109 years old. We say 107 because Happy Canyon wasn't incorporated until 1916. Okay, how do you go about telling a century-old story? That's a great question. I didn't know either. But as I looked through piece by piece of memorabilia, I had newspaper articles. I did interviews with some people that are here tonight, including my beloved Matt Duchek, who was our grounds masseuse forever. I literally began to see the story come to life. Like the chapters wrote themselves, and it was my honor to get to do it. What had been a dream of my heart, the unknown story of Happy Canyon, began to come alive as I unearthed gem after treasure, a few of which I want to show you tonight. And by the way, I feel like I'm in my natural habitat. I've got a stagecoach and a covered wagon. I think we're good to go. I'm feeling like we're almost in Happy Canyon. So let me start with the big question. Why Happy Canyon? We had this successful rodeo for 4 years in 1914. And there was very few things to do after Roundup got over. You could go see the Alta Theater and test of the Baskervilles, or you could go to one of the mini saloons, well, if you were a boy, right? Because the women weren't really allowed in, and obviously not the children. Or you could even attend one of the street dances, which they said in downtown Pendleton were a little sketchy, because very often a lit-up cowboy would ride right through the dance as it was going on. So the question was beginning to be asked by the father of Roundup, Roy Rayleigh. What are we going to do with the nighttime slot of the Pendleton Roundup? And this is a really fun picture of Roy Rayleigh that I'll tell you about here in a minute. But what you may not know is the Pendleton Commercial Club on North Main was more like a gentleman's club from, let's say, old England. Imagine billiards, roaring fire, a good bottle of scotch and cigars. These men were the movers and the shakers of Pendleton, Oregon. And they not only financially backed the first Happy Canyon, but they oversaw every aspect of it, most of them becoming the board of directors in 1914. With Roy Rayleigh's theater ideas in mind and his friends at the Pendleton Commercial Club, the idea of Happy Canyon, around a good decanter of scotch, I'm pretty sure, sprang to life. And lo and behold, the show was born. I love the fact that in September 1914, Pendleton is all abuzz because they can't wait. Pendleton Roundup is amazing. This new Happy Canyon is sure to be fantastic. And it was not going to disappoint. Plus, you could bring the whole family. September 23rd, 1914, the very first night of this show. Everyone's excited. The entire place is sold out, and the venue is ready. This is what the East Oregonian says, excitedly. There's going to be a 23-piece band. The dramatic scenes significant to frontier life and cowboy stunts will be sandwiched in and out in rapid order. From the beginning, the idea was to invite the audience in to take part in the show. And so right after the show, they opened up the tent and invited you in to gamble, to drink, and to dance. Now this is really fun because, hopefully I can make this work. See this little word there that says canyon? This is one of those pictures that I was excited to find because this is the very first sight of the Happy Canyon in 1914 and 1915. If you ever go to Great Pacific, look across the street to where the Eagles is now, and that's where the very first shows took place. So when I found this picture proving it, you can ask my husband. I got pretty excited about some of my finds, and he was the first to know. So this picture is exciting to me because you realize, and I'll show you again, you can see this is the Bowman Hotel, rail yard, and that is the very first Happy Canyon. And that they had that big sign painted there was just such a great find for me. So after that first year, in 1915, the East Oregonians said, featured by the largest crowd of 4 nights, a cowboy wedding, they actually had a wedding, a real live one, and a grand climax of letterbuck spirit, Happy Canyon ended the second year of its existence Saturday night in a burst of cowboy noise and a blaze of cowboy glory. First 2 years, rousing success. Sold out every night. People loved it. And it was such a complimentary thing to the beautiful Pendleton Roundup. So as I began my research, huge question, where's the original scripts? They have to be up there. Where's the first cue cards? I had the joy of meeting Roy Rayleigh's granddaughter, of which I will talk in a minute. And this is what I found, and again, equally excited on this day. This is the very first cue card. Isn't it fun? And Sally was so generous to share these things from Roy Rayleigh. But you can see that we don't really show the Indian participation yet, and I will get to that. But I do want you to see what I call the acts of 109 years. Can you imagine? We actually have Stagecoach, the horseback mounted quadrille, who doesn't love that? The band, different things. We don't have Sharky the bull. They actually used to wrestle down a big bull. Can you imagine? We still have the quartet, bank robbery, and the fun thing is the fire, which is based on the fact that downtown Pendleton actually had a fire at the Villard Hotel. So when you watch the fire in Happy Canyon, it's actually something that happened in Pendleton. And then the one that I love is Shorty, because as some of you know that are in here, I play the nurse in the Shorty Act. It's one of the funnest parts. What I discovered, though, is in 1915, East Oregonian talked about the original Shorty or Doctor Act. This is how they describe it. They say, one of the bad men got shot, and he was dragged onto a table, and with saw and axe, the doctor amputated his legs at the knees. To the surprise and hysterical delight of the crowd, then he just walked away on his stumps. I want to show you who that was. This man was actually, in real life, a cattle buyer who had lost his legs in an unfortunate accident. And it is said that he loved playing the very first Shorty. And it's just fun that beautiful Virginia Roberts, who is in the Hall of Fame inductee this year, helped me find this picture. So after the very first 2 years, the question was, where do we take this show? We've just outgrown everything on Main Street. I had to write an entire chapter on this because there was so many different places they considered. They actually considered the park that's next to the current Catholic Church. That they actually thought of it there. They had an island by the Umatilla. They thought about putting it there. They even thought about putting it down by Roundup, and they go, no, we want it downtown, which is so fun to think about. And they finally settled on what was the old railroad area, which is where the current Western Auto is in Pendleton. In 2016, we had a really fun ceremony, and we placed a plaque on the current Western Auto to signify that Happy Canyon spent her first glory years from 1960 to 1954 at that location. The next time you're in Pendleton, think about that. So just imagine, hammer and nail, and you know all about this, Matt Duchek, Hammer and nail are working right up until the opening sequence of the 1916 Happy Canyon show. People were pretty excited. They had a band from San Francisco, diving mermaids, maybe I should bring that back, and in the first Happy Canyon pool, which I will get to, cowboys singing and the Red Dog, which is what they used to call Goldies, in all its glory. But what I want you to imagine is they had 9 girls from Pendleton High School dressed up in red costumes as wood nymphs. I don't know why, but they danced airily about as the show began. Don't you wish we had video from back then? This is another one of my fun finds. Get this, this is a full-page East Oregonian ad from 1916, and you can see some of the fun things. Hard to see what they listed here, but it actually talks about it. And I'm just curious, why is there safe seats for all? Like, originally, was it not safe on Main Street? One wants to know why some of these things are on there. 50 cents would get you in, and I was so excited to find this full-page ad. This is about the time frame that Roy Raley knew, you know what? We have our entire Indian village right next to Roundup. We need to include the stories of our beautiful local Indian tribes. So he consulted Anna Minthorn Wanasee, a tribal elder, literally a woman ahead of her time. And I write a whole chapter about them, both Roy and Anna, called The Creative Team. And think about this, you guys. This is 1916. First of all, a woman and a tribal member doesn't meet with a head honcho in Pendleton and come up with this glorious story. I want you to think about the fact that Pendleton brought together 2 cultures unlike anywhere that I know of. And it's the most amazing thing, to Roy Raley's credit, that he saw Anna as being an asset to what we know and what we have as a show. Now, this is Anna when she was young, and her story alone is fascinating. She went to the Carlisle Institute in Pennsylvania, graduating in 1906, and I discovered that she took acting. Isn't that fun? So she had a background that was all going to fit into Roy Raley's vision. And part of the joy in doing this project then was meeting key people such as Sally Raley Grady, Roy Raley's granddaughter, and also Mitzi Rodriguez, who is Anna's granddaughter. And see this basket hat? This basket hat is now still worn by Mitzi in the show, which is amazing to me, because that basket hat is several hundred years old. And Mitzi leads our welcome dance for the Lewis and Clark scene. But what was amazing is when I interviewed Mitzi and Sally, both of these wonderful ladies gave me an insight into the creative team I wouldn't have had otherwise. I love Sally Raley, her stories of going to visit Anna's teepee year after year with Roy Raley. They would sit in the canvas shade of the teepee listening to Roy and Anna reminisce and catch up. Isn't that beautiful? So Roy and Anna continued this amazing friendship clear into their deaths. And then Sally said, she also remembers when Mitzi and Anna would come to Roy Raley's law firm in Pendleton. We all been to Rafel's, right? That used to be Roy Raley's house and office. And she remembers sitting on the porch, 2 little girls growing up in the shadow of the creative team as they watched these 2 amazing icons continue their friendship all their lives, listening to the creative team. Again, would you love to know what they have to say? So what happened then is Anna and Roy started to collaborate. They started with a certain script, and I'm going to show you one here in a minute. And they dropped things, and then they added things. And this is another amazing cue card that I got from Sally Raley Grady, and it's 1918. This is after Anna and Roy wrote the script. And it shows you now that we have our tribal member making camp, but fire burial. No one seems to know what this scene was. Like, did we burn someone? Like, what the heck? So we have a fire burial, and it's a little bit different situation where the Indians actually with Shorty. I'm not sure what happened there. Unfortunately, I don't have scripts to match the cue cards, but it's really fun to think about how much the show has changed. And then we still have the stagecoach, the quadrille, so many of the same things, but you can see how the show morphed. Even in the last 20 years, I can testify to the fact that the show has changed a lot because we keep making improvements, adding, deleting, having fresh specialty acts. So think about the fact that after this 5-6 year period, Anna and Roy gave us a one-of-a-kind script that is still in existence today. I also want to point out that by bringing the tribes in, Happy Canyon didn't even realize that we were going to get to honor our tribes in incredible ways. For instance, in 1919, the Happy Canyon Board invited our local tribes to dance the victory dance. That was a nice word for actually the scout dance, and that had been outlawed when they were forced to move to the reservation. It literally was a gift beyond our tribal members that they got to perform the scout dance or the victory dance in 1919. And they said, the EO reported, scalps were literally waved aloft as the dance had been outlawed and nearly forgotten except by Indian elders who taught it to the young men. Think about how much that meant to our tribes. Just beautiful, powerful that Happy Canyon did that. The beauty and the significance of our local tribal participation is unmatched anywhere, and I actually can attest to that. I've been to Cheyenne, very little participation from the local tribes. I just returned, my husband Alan and I, from the Calgary Stampede. And we got to go to Elbow River Camp. We were hosted by the director that interacts there with the local tribes. There's 5 or 6 tribes that camp there. And we loved seeing it, but I will tell you, and they agree, there is nothing like our Indian village. I think there was only 6 or 8 teepees total. And while they do display a little bit, you have to go to the village to see their culture. I want you to realize that our tribes get to display their culture 4 nights like it was. The beauty of it, the glory of the regalia. And even Calgary Stampede said there is nothing like Pendleton, not our 300 plus teepees, not our shows and the dancing and roundup. There's just nothing like it. Really fun because when I was interviewing Chief Gary Burke, this is his father. This is Chief Raymond Popcorn Burke. And Popcorn received the Happy Canyon Appreciation Award and told stories to my dad that he had to translate English into whatever Nez Perce or Umatilla, whatever at the time that was most familiar, for the show. Isn't that amazing? So Popcorn Burke literally translated to help our tribal members understand what Roy and Anna wanted them to do. And he said many did not speak English for many years in the Old Canyon. And this is what Chief Raymond said. He said, the Indian scenes enacted by my people are the last of the past traditions, and Happy Canyon is preserving them for future generations. I just think that's amazing. In fact, there's something you may not know. Who has seen the show in here? A lot of you? If you haven't lately, I'm going to be encouraging you to come. When we begin the show, currently Chief Gary Burke goes up into the silhouette and he welcomes all from the north, the south, the east, and the west. Next time you see the show, realize you are hearing the last phrases of pure Cayuse left. Because the Burke family from Clarence Burke passed that greeting down to the sons and the grandsons in pure Cayuse. That language was lost in 1945. And so when you realize that Happy Canyon has preserved things that people don't even realize they're seeing, it stuns me all 4 nights. And then that's translated by right now Jason Hill to welcome all. Now, his son, this is Chief Gary Burke, wearing the same Indian headdress. Now he welcomes all from the north, the south, the east, and the west. And I love the fact that the history of just his regalia alone is a story. I want to talk about now the fact that Roy Rayleigh's idea from the very beginning, we're not just going to have a show, we're going to invite everybody in to participate. And so I want to show you a really fun picture. This is rare. I found this in Umatilla County Historical Society. This is from either 1914 or 1915 on Main Street in the tent. And it's pictures from the very first gambling. Because from the outset, you got done with the show, you were invited in to dance, to drink, and to gamble, and to have a great time. And I just love that this picture shows Sparrow back then. And if you look closely, those are tent walls there. The next slide then is of a 1915 Happy Canyon buck. My dad has an extensive collection, so I'm lucky to have this. This is quite rare. They used Happy Canyon bucks for several things. In the very first Happy Canyon, now we use chips, if you've been to Happy Canyon recently. But they used these bucks to dance the jitney dances. And how the jitney dance worked is you paid a buck for the gal didn't have to pay, and she would get to dance with you. And when the dance was done, a couple guys with a rope would sweep the floor, and then you have to pay a buck again to dance. The bucks cost about 10 cents back then. Pretty good day, I would say. I can't tell you how many people, including some of our tribal members, told me they met at a jitney dance at Happy Canyon and lived happily ever after. We have Happy Canyon to thank for several happy marriages in Umatilla County. Yeah, in fact, even Matt Duchek and his beloved Pat met at a Happy Canyon dance. That's right. They also used then these bucks to gamble. And they said that in the early days, and I consider probably for a long time, real money crossed those tables for quite a while. Well, let me tell you about an interesting fact about Happy Canyon. Guess what? They built the new Happy Canyon in 1916. Oops, little wrinkle, little hiccup. Prohibition. Prohibition starts in 1916. This is really inconvenient for Happy Canyon and all things Roundup. Can you imagine till 1933? There was no alcohol. Well, it's fun, some of the stories I found. I actually wish I could tell you all of them. And if you consider where Happy Canyon was, it's right by the underground. If you've been on the underground tours, hello, speakeasy, like feet away from Happy Canyon. Really convenient, actually. No alcohol at Happy Canyon. The stories abound. In fact, one of my favorites is in 1920, the state prohibition officer had come to town, and he reported to the EO, I saw absolutely no signs of alcohol at Happy Canyon. Okay, because a day later, in that same said newspaper, someone was found with a flask of whiskey at Happy Canyon and was chased by a police officer and shot at for 6 blocks. But this is the interesting part. That bottle ended up with Mayor Best's name on it, and I'm sure he took care of it. These are the glory years of the show, they say. They said that Hollywood even asked to buy the rights to Happy Canyon, and the board of directors said no thanks again and again. In fact, they were asked to bring down the horseback-mounted quadrille several times, and they said, no, come up here to see us. This is our show. The stories that Happy Canyon could tell in those old days, back in the 1920s, well, when Happy Canyon was experiencing rain, which we're not going to this year, just saying, the Indian raiders emerged into the arena, and they're circling the wagons, and all of a sudden, this rainstorm began, and one young Indian man decided it was raining too hard, so as he's attacking the Indian train, he flips open his umbrella and continues to shoot off his horse while his umbrella is overhead. Needless to say, it brought the house down, and we have a saying, you never know what might happen at Happy Canyon. Another fun story involves the medicine man. And as you patrons that have seen the show know, he's working over the dead guy, and then he does this over the drum, and a big puff goes off, which is magic of Happy Canyon. Only this year, the man's hider fell off. In other words, his pants, which are short. Only he didn't know. He's in the height of his acting, and all of his friends behind him cannot get his attention. Happy Canyon patrons got more than they bargained for that. They eventually did get his attention. I'd like to know how they did that. There's also the story of the rattlesnake dance. With a real rattlesnake, mind you, in the old canyon. This act was a highlight for many years, and said people bought tickets just to see this. Maybe I should bring it back, I don't know. But this all worked well until the night the rattlesnake struck the man playing the chief, and they quickly dropped that, because that did not go well. There's so many amazing, fun pictures of the old Happy Canyon. And this one I want to show you because if you're going up Immigrant from downtown towards Roundup, this is what you would see in 1936. That's where the current Western Auto sits. So it's kind of a fun view of it. And that back area where you see this is where the dance and the gambling took place. And they would add a tent if the crowds got too big. There's stories of, later, after Prohibition, there's stories of how the local, I think it's Roche Bottling Company, they had to reuse their beer bottles. And they'd sometimes forget to clean the cigarette butts out of them. So the new beer the next night sometimes had an added bonus feature to it. One of the interesting stories I found is you can see right here, this is the old Happy Canyon set. This is called the Red Dog Saloon. The reason it got named the Red Dog is after a controversial name that what is now our Goldies used to have. This name was Klondike Kate. This was a problem. It created controversy because there was a real madam named Kate. And Happy Canyon had named the assumed dance hall after a real madam in Pendleton. And so they decided they needed to change it to the Red Dog because it had become very offensive. Even Roy Rayleigh, I found in one of his diaries, said, while she still lives in the glories of her past reputation, she might even have a libel suit for the use of her name. And so they dropped that name and went to the Red Dog. Two things start to come out of the old canyon. Everyone said it was a fire trap, completely made of old wood, and everyone was a smoker back then. Remember that? They had young boys hired just to put out cigarette fires underneath the grandstand with little cans of water, because there was constantly little fires starting. And Fritz Hill, if any of you knew him, he said the scenery sometimes would catch on fire just from a hot blank from the guns being fired into it or some of the tarps. So that was a problem, and the board of directors said, we either need to rebuild or we're going to have to move again. Secondly, the other thing people talked about is how much they missed the nightly parade. Imagine every night of Roundup, there was a huge parade from Roundup all the way downtown to Happy Canyon. All the Indians, all the wagons, all the cowboys and cowgirls came down every night. And I've heard old timers say they missed those parades. It was almost like a bonus part of the Roundup that you got to see them coming and going. Imagine how fun that had to be. So picture in your mind's eye that idea, and I want to show you one of my latest finds. This is not in my book. This is a picture, we think in the 50s before they moved Happy Canyon. Because it's aerial, obviously. But look at this. This is where Happy Canyon was. See the words? So there's the Bowman. That's where the first Happy Canyon set. And they said that there was food and vendors and, cotton candy, the whole thing, that would go all the way up the street to Happy Canyon from Main Street. But this was such a treasure to find. So you can see the semicircle of the grandstand, and this is where the scenery was in the back of the dance and the gambling. But I couldn't believe that I got to find this picture because it really gave me an overall visual of what it looked like. And then you can also see how they would parade then all the way uptown from Roundup. So imagine then after 38 years, Happy Canyon decided to move again. And they knew that they needed to be by the Roundup grounds. For so many reasons, just the convenience, just the fact they realized that the two needed to be together. So in 1954, they tore down this grandstand and built our new one where we're currently located. And the first show was there in 1955. And this will show you the beauty of our grandstand and set up on a day ready for the show. And then this is our grandstand, which seats 4,280 people. And it's beautiful to think about the fact that Happy Canyon survived 2 moves. Just imagine all that entailed to actually move it. I think my friends here, Kurt Tullis and Matt, could tell us they found old pieces of the set that they reused in our current Happy Canyon, which is fun to think that they reused some of the old scenery when they rebuilt our current scenery. That's all been redone as well. One of the things that I want to tell you about, though, that's so unique to Happy Canyon is our pool. This is such a neat picture. This is from the 1916 Happy Canyon. And you can see the pool. And the first year of the pool, which was Roy Rayleigh's brainchild and idea. And the reason that he did that is he had been to New York and saw a hippodrome, which is almost like Cirque du Soleil with water. And so he saw a stage that incorporated water, and he's like, Happy Canyon needs that. So they dug a hole. In fact, Rick Balzar, who was on our board of directors and worked for the city of Pendleton, said they have issues still over where the old canyon sat. They have a sinkhole. And we're pretty certain it's this right here. So they dug this big hole, they lined it with canvas, and the water ran out. So what do? You stick in the fire hose from Pendleton, which is freezing. So they hired these diving mermaids, which were professional divers from Portland that year. And lo and behold, they needed to fix the pool after that because 3 of them got pneumonia, one's super serious from diving into the pool. But it's fun to think about the fact that we've always had a pool since we had the second location in 1960. This is a current picture, which I love this one because this is one of our actors, Andrew Porter, Pants on Fire. We currently have 9 actors, approximately, sometimes more, that go into the pool. And when you realize that this pool is such an amazing part of our show, we have a high dive artist. If you've seen the show recently, during the rescue scene, he's fantastic. You don't want to miss it. He literally does a twirling fall and lands in that pool every night from the very, very top. It's above the waterfall. We have the rescue scene, we have a lot of the people that go in, and occasionally a pheasant, which is a problem because the pheasant never survives. So I love the fact that we've always had a pool. One year they decided it'd be really great if they dove a horse into it. Well, guess what? That only lasted Wednesday at Happy Canyon because the horse said, heck to the no, I am not going back in there. And he refused to go off the waterfall. One of the things I want to show you, and you're welcome to come look at it, but this is a program from a similar pageant right here in Walla Walla called How the West Was Won. And it's the Pioneer Pageant in 1924 here in Walla Walla. I don't know if you're aware, but Walla Walla had their own pageant. And it's sad to me that it stopped. Isn't that true? Because you think about the fact that we lost something with that. But I show you that program because I want you to understand how that much more special it is that Happy Canyon has endured world wars, COVID, and 2 moves to the show it is today. Lastly, before I start to close, there's a fallacy regarding the Happy Canyon show. If you've seen it once, you don't need to go back. I disagree. For those of us that are involved in Happy Canyon, every night can be different. I can attest to it even last year, some of which things I hope to never see again. Truly, it's something we change year after year. In fact, one of the beautiful things the show has done from the very beginning is we incorporate specialty acts. And this is a very fun picture of Monty Montana. I'm sure you've heard of him. Do you know that he came and was our specialty act for over 50 years? He started in the 1920s. Get this, he was 87 years old the last time he performed in Happy Canyon. And he was sad to have to retire. And I remember being there that night, and we all cried a bit because Monty Montana was someone we had grown up with. That's one of the most beautiful parts about Happy Canyon. We do our best to hire specialty acts year after year that literally add pizzazz and interest and actually give the patrons of Pendleton Roundup and Happy Canyon people to see that they wouldn't otherwise. And we have had the best of the best over the years come and be a part of the show. In fact, shameless plug for the 2023 Happy Canyon show. This year we will feature Piper Ewell. She's 12 years old. She's from Calgary, Canada. She's a trick rider, Roman rider, and does Liberty horse work. And her little 5-year-old sidekick, Annie, will be coming in Roman riding. You don't want to miss it. And and we work her all the way through the show several times. Lastly, I want to tell you a few things you may not know. I show you this slide of Lewis and Clark because I want to challenge you to rediscover the beauty of history, Americana, that is in your backyard. Because when you watch Happy Canyon and you see the beauty of Lewis and Clark, you are literally seeing history where it happened. Because the tribal members that literally welcomed Lewis and Clark to this area, their descendants are welcoming Lewis and Clark into our show. It's powerful to realize that you're getting to see history happen. Also, when you see the covered wagons come in to the beauty of that march, which you'll have to remind me what the name of that song is. I can't remember. When you see those covered wagons come in, you could come with me to the top of the Happy Canyon grandstand and look over the top towards the Umatilla River, and let's go back a couple hundred years and you would literally see wagon after wagon coming right through Pendleton, right behind where now Happy Canyon sits, to really see history. And I can't help but almost just get chills every night when those wagons come rolling in, because you're seeing real history happen right where it occurred. It's amazing to me. And one of the fun things is the very organ we use night after night to have the quartet sing, which has been a part of the show almost 100 years, is literally an organ, an old pump organ that came across on the Oregon Trail. So you're seeing a piece of history portrayed right before your eyes that is a part of our show and is a treasure. I want to show you a picture. This is my husband, Alan, who's here with me tonight, which I'm very grateful, especially for all the technical help, because that's not my forte. This is our sons and our daughter, and they are 5th generation to be in the show. And I stand before you as a 3rd generation show director. And it's a high and mighty honor that I get to follow my grandfather, my father, and my husband as a show director of this amazing show. My grandfather was the very first sheriff on Main Street in Pendleton in 1814, and that part is still in our family. And last year, Alan and I got to watch our granddaughter come out of the trunk act, the 6th generation in my family to participate. And I want you to understand the beauty of the fact that both the non-tribal and the tribal families that participate in this show, it's like a rite of passage. It's the glory of seeing families that are dedicated. Besides the fact, you can't tell me there is no other place in America where tribal and non-tribal family comes together to put on a show, and we are one big family. Isn't that true, Janine? Every night as we put that show on. And it's a powerful thing to see that come together. The journey that I embarked on to unearth behind-the-scenes stories, true stories, and there was a lot of folklore that I wasn't able to publish, well, at least probably shouldn't, is absolutely had been an incredible journey for me. But I will tell you that undoubtedly the best part of Happy Canyon is her people. I call it the golden thread, like I just described. We are 700 volunteers strong. And as I reach out to the cast currently, it's a big part of my job, I am happy to say that right now we have people asking to be in the show. That's an honor to me, that people realize the glory of it. In fact, Janine, my really good friend, I went to high school, came back last year, and it's an honor, Janine, that she came back to play in the tribal portion of the show, and it's really powerful that you do that. Happy Canyon is her people, and you can see that. And I'm going to leave you with this beautiful slide that's in my book of just a little vignette of regalia, because nowhere in all of America, nowhere, is the display of tribal life like ours, fully dressed in true regalia and horse trappings, showing true village life. When I interviewed